Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome to the Healing Generation podcast. My name is Ariel Jimenez, and I will serve as one of the co-hosts today. I want to start off by wishing all of you a happy new year and invite you to continue to sit with us as we explore what healing looks like to today's generation. With that being said, I wanted to pass the palabra to my co-host Alejandro, who will continue to host these conversations with me. He will get an opportunity to say hello and introduce our first guest of the year. So Alejandro, welcome. Nice to have you back. I'll pass the palabra to you.
Thank you. My name is Alejandro Ozuna. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's the first one of the new year for the youth portion at least. So always grateful to live another day, live another year. Happy 2025 to everyone. I'm happy to welcome our guest today, Mikey Cornejo. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure seeing new faces, getting to meet new people. The way we like to start things off here is with a little conocimiento, just a little who are you, where do you come from, and really anything you just want the listeners to know. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
No. Thank you for having me. I didn't know it was the first one of the year, so I feel like it's a special honor. I've been really excited to do this. Just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in San Jose, specifically the east side. I guess I grew up in my family dynamics are a little weird because my mom's side is Salvadorian and Nicaraguan, and my dad's side Filipino and Puerto Rican, and they never really got along. But being with my dad's side, they're really family oriented. Like no matter what you do, all the stuff that you put them through, they're always gonna bring you in. They're always gonna take you in. Always gonna feed you and house you. And then my mom's side is like, I don't know, they're just really hardworking, and they're kind of like, if you don't get with it, then get lost. But they're always like teach you how to work, teach you how to support yourself and be resourceful. So I think I've been able to connect those two together and be really family oriented, but also be hardworking, and like the people around me, they gotta be both. I was able to pick up on both of those.
No, yeah, that's definitely a beautiful blend. Repeat that again. What is it?
Oh, Salvadorian and Nicaraguan and Filipino and Puerto Rican. So I'm always a mix of both.
Hey, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, my family roots go all over the place too, right? So I always say I'm an indigenous Mexicano with Salvadorian roots. So I got, a little bit of all that también. But you also said San Jose and specifically East Side, right? Because I think, I grew up in the East Side as well, and I just love our culture here. I love growing up in San Jose, and I think it's its own little world. So tell us a little bit about growing up in San Jose. Like, how was that for you?
It was rough, but it has its good times, as everything does. As in terms of family, it was always hard to find love at home. I feel like that's just how a lot of families were. Like, growing up in the East Side, it's hella territorial. And there was always fights in school, and a lot of stuff like that. Just a lot of, it's a bad environment, but also people are like really, they're for the community, and everyone sticks together for the most part. We try to do what we can for each other. Yeah, it was pretty rough, but I'm okay now.
Yeah.
I really want to emphasize what you said when you said that SJ's for their community. I grew up in San Jose, Eastside San Jose too, before I moved to Gilbert at 18, and I want to go back so bad. I miss San Jose. And I always say the sense of community that SJ brings is like no other city. So moving from like a mostly Latino, like very diverse city to like almost an all-white city, it's like you can feel that difference. So I'm wondering for you if there's something about SJ specifically, whether it's the food, the music, the people, the environment, really, something good that SJ has that you feel like no other city could really compare to.
Definitely food. That food brings people together. You can't go wrong with that. There's a lot of taco trucks, a lot of good little hole in the walls. But honestly, I think it's just the thing about the East Side San Jose is just like everyone got the same goal and they're trying to make it out. And so I think everyone understands that about each other and they're willing to help each other out. I think personally, when I was younger, I didn't know about a bunch of the resources, or I felt like nobody came to help me when I was younger. And so I got a little older and I started getting involved with different stuff. Was when I seen that like there are people out there that actually care and that are actually trying to do better and help the community.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, right? Like we live in a city that yeah has some troubles, has some issues, but I think a city that also has a lot of beauty, right? So when you talk about the food, you talk about the food trucks, like that's truly the entryway into experiencing other people's cultures, right? Sit
Hmm.
down, eat some of their food, taste their
Right.
flavor, and connect in that way, right? I also like how you describe that you live in a city where a lot of people have the same goal. I tap into my mentor Mario that says, you know, you want to get in trouble, there's a list of people waiting to get in trouble with you. But when you're trying to do good, that list gets a lot shorter. But I think in San Jose, you have a lot of people that have the same goals, the same mindset, and they want to move together, right? But sometimes there might be some obstacles. So let me ask you this. What are some issues that you think youth face today in society that might prevent them from getting to those goals?
I think one of the main things is just not being heard. Or
Mm,
actually, people hear them, but they just don't listen to them.
mm,
And then another thing that goes with that is that some youth, they just don't know how to communicate well enough to be listened to. When they're able to find their voice and they're able to educate themselves, and then they can be listened to and they can be heard. Like I see it a lot nowadays where the youth that I grew up with and too, I think, Edgar, he was one of those youth too.
yeah.
We were just young knuckleheads. And then now we found our voice and we're able to articulate ourselves well enough that people actually want to listen and they're actually considering what we say. And so I think just being heard is one of the biggest things. And then having people to teach us how to use our voice. It's hard to find people like that. And I was lucky enough to find people like that, good mentors and people in my age group that have been through the same thing and have already been able to find their voice and find themselves.
Not being heard, or being heard but not being listened to, was one thing that stuck with me with what you said, because I've never heard someone phrase it like that before. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. We always talk about when you go into a room, like, how would you feel if no one ever shook hands with you or no one ever addressed you? Like, you wouldn't
Mhm.
feel seen. And I definitely understand what you mean. When youth today struggle with not feeling seen, not feeling listened to, and then it can prevent you from figuring out, like, well, how am I supposed to know what to say now that I have a microphone in my
Right.
hand? So I think acknowledging that is very important, and acknowledging the steps to make sure our youth feel seen, like doing groups, like doing panels that I heard you and Edgar were on. I got to hear a little bit about that. Giving youth an opportunity to feel seen, to feel listened, to make sure that they know that their voices are heard. So thank you for saying that. You talked about the mentors you have, and I want to go a little bit more in that. Who has helped you along your journey, whether it's your healing journey, your journey in life, just in general? Who do you want to shout out, give a little shout out to when it comes to mentors?
If I named everybody, we'd be sitting here for like 30 minutes just hearing names. But definitely, there's a few people actually in juvenile hall. I can't name all of them, but there's a lot of good staff there and a lot of good behavioral health that helped me a lot. And some teachers too as well. I think that was a thing too. When I was in school, my teachers didn't really care. But in juvenile hall, at least I found a few that actually did that I can connect with. And then a person that really brought me a long way was Susie Rivera. She does the Yak, and she used to be with Fly. And now she started the YAB, which is Youth Advisory Board. It's like a statewide advisory board where we just talk about a bunch of issues and try to see what we can do with them and go to different events and speak and just share that youth voice. So she helped me a lot. And then I'll say my grandma too. My grandma and my mom's. They always maybe didn't know how to parent us or how to help us, but they always had good intentions, and I was able to pick up a lot of information from them that I didn't understand when I was younger. Like I didn't know how to use it, what they were telling me. And then I got older and I'm like, damn, they were right.
And those are some powerful people.
Actually, you guys as well. I've connected with you guys a few times. You guys are always uplifting. It's like, oh, keep going. I met Maestro Jerry. I've worked with him on a few events. So it's really nice to see, just a bunch of people that care about everybody else.
Yeah, you just mentioned like some powerful warriors right now. I'm gonna hone in on grandma real quick because my grandma was my safe spot. If I got kicked out of school, if I got locked up, if I got an award, good or bad, my grandma always hugged me, gave me a bendición, loved up on me, and gave me something to eat. So I knew no matter if I did good or bad, my grandma was gonna rock with me. What is one thing that your grandma taught you that you want to pass on to other people?
I guess just be patient and always love, like always be kind and love whoever, because that's what she did with me. She's always been patient, always praying. And she, like you said, she always showed love. Anytime I got locked up, anytime I got kicked out of school, they're getting this phone call from so-and-so. It's like, my mom's be the first one to start yelling, oh, this, and that. My grandma, though, is like, it's okay, mijo. You know that you can still do better. I believe in you. I'm praying for you. And I think that always just comforted me a little bit. And then I see it now, but I guess I didn't before. Like I was selfish. I'm just like, whatever, grandma. But now it really means a lot, and it always has. So it's just being patient and compassionate and just showing love and always being kind. She's always like that. Like I feel like it's super hard to get her mad, or at least it's hard to see that she's mad.
Yeah, my grandma, she'll be mad quick. So, she knew how to love on you, but she knew how to put people in check too. You know, there's another thing that you mentioned before, you know, pass it back to AB, but some of the work that you're doing. Like, I got mad love for Susie Rivera. She was my professor at San Jose State. Shout out to her. And I was also a mentor at Fly back in the day. And then my Jerry as well, doing all the work with OYCR, right? And talking about the Youth Advisory Board and all that stuff. So I know there's a lot of amazing work going on. And I know you're a part of a lot of that. So I just want to give you some space. What are some current work that you're doing that you just want to highlight and put some spotlights to it?
Currently, I'm working with the probation department. I'm a student intern with them, and pretty much I'm just trying to get like a lot of resources for them, like housing, food, employment, and then building out the programs that they have in there, because they're not as effective as they sound. Like they'll bring in programs and we got this going on. But in practice, the kids are like, we hate it. We're not learning anything. We already know this. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to focus on, is just building out those programs and for SYTF, for the Secure Youth Treatment Facility, because that's why they closed down YA, so they can have a better program. But sometimes it seems like it's not working. So that's one of the big things that I'm focusing on, is just trying to get that program right. And at least if my help didn't work, at least I tried, you know. Hopefully I didn't cause anybody to go down the wrong path, but something, you know. I'm trying to just do something. And then for the Youth Advisory Board, we're doing a lot of work too. We're trying to at least every year have something like where we can go and meet and speak to different counties, and we're just trying to recruit and reach out to every county. We're trying to plan trips, trying to go visit juvenile halls or visit certain communities, just connect everybody together. Because it's like, if my county has this and your county doesn't, or your county has this and mine doesn't, and we can share that, I think it'll be great. And it already has been great. We have a lot of people from different counties, and we've all been able to connect, and we all came from different places, similar struggles, but, you know, we found like a little group that we can feel a part of.
That's beautiful, man. Hearing about that work, especially considering like you're a youth yourself and you're a youth trying to make change for youth. That's a really cool thing to hear about. Yeah, I feel like when we discuss stuff like probation and incarcerated youth, we tend to focus a lot about like numbers and statistics and, you know, everything negative, all the challenges and stuff. And I want to talk about, you know, in this work, we like to highlight the generational blessings and blessings in general. So through the work you've done, what's one blessing you've seen come out of the work?
I think genuine happiness. It's not like, of course, it's not a constant stream. Like, nobody's happy all the time, right? But I've been able to see, like, going to events and just whatever, doing certain work, like, people actually smile. Like, people that you would never think could smile. Even myself, I'm like, damn, I'm actually having a good time, you know? And I just been able to see people enjoy themselves, and it's all because we're all together. It's like, we had this event, we did really well, people liked what we put out. You know, there's food, there's music, so, and I've just been able to see people have a good time and actually feel, well, I think that they feel comfortable if they're able to laugh and joke and just have a good time, you know, let themselves go. They don't have to be super serious all the time or watch over their back, you know? So I think that's one of the big things that's been able to help me go. And one of the big things that I like seeing is just people smiling, people being happy, especially people that haven't got that chance to actually, you know, crack a genuine smile. So.
Yeah. You know, my mom does this work too, and she just took a group of Foothill kids actually to go see the WrestleMania or whatever it's called. I'm not educated on that stuff, but she said her favorite part of it was seeing kids be kids.
Right.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing to be able to say. It's like, you know, we see our youth on campus like all serious and stuff, and once they like come in group for a day, like seem just be funny and goofy and like letting out that ugly laugh, like it's a beautiful healing thing to see in itself.
Yeah. Right before Christmas, we did a sheriff's clause. They do it. I think they've been doing it for the past 3 years, and we handed out over like 2,000 toys.
Nice.
And then it was like a cool little event. They had like a Santa Claus there, had a dude giving out free haircuts, a bunch of little jumpers and stuff. And then it was so much work, and I'm like, damn, I'm tired, but just seeing all the kids smile and they were getting like all their families together, they were eating churros and pizza, just getting toys, like free toys. Don't like free toys. It was like a really good thing to see, just to see all those kids smiling and everybody having a good time. Nobody's like arguing, nothing. Yeah, it definitely is a sight to see.
I think your mom was talking about me as being one of those giant kids. I was there. It was Monday Night Raw, and that's the funniest part. Like, you know, people were chanting. Even I think Mikey, you gonna like this. People were chanting like, "You suck, you suck," and our suite changed it up to East Side, East Side. So I don't know if that's allowed, but just seeing people laugh, smile, like it was dope, right? I want to highlight one of the events that I saw you manage. And I want to give props because not everybody does it the right way. A lot of people claim to do youth-led work. And it's not really youth-led, but youth are involved. And it's like everybody does the work and let me hand the mic over to a youth for 5 minutes. Let me snatch it back and continue. And because that youth spoke for 5 minutes, it was now youth-led and youth-centered and youth this. And to me, that comes off as fake.
Right. Yeah, we see a lot of that.
Yeah, but when I went to Sacramento and I saw y'all at the Sierra Health Foundation, and the way that you all put together that event was amazing. It was truly youth-led. Y'all had the mic, y'all had the stage, and y'all highlighted the work that y'all needed to highlight. So I want to pass it to you real quick. And how was that? Like, what was the thought process of putting that event together and just leading it the way that y'all led it?
So it came together, a bunch of people from across the state. We all got together just through Zoom, and we were working day in and day out, just putting in hours through Zoom, trying to figure out, get around each other's schedule. Like, hey, when are you free? Because we all got school, we all got work, and we all got different things going on. Some people are in custody. They can't be on Zoom all the time. They have to get it approved. And so it took a lot of work just to get us all on the same page. And, you know, it's like, oh, me and bro will work here, and then so-and-so will work there. And then we put our work together. We'll come back in the meeting, and we'll discuss it, and then like get feedback. And I think it turned out really well. I think we were kind of, you know, things don't always go right. And so some people are a little bit scared, like, are they going to be able to join, or are they going to be able to say this or that, or, you know? But yeah, it took a lot of work to get it together. Thanks to Susie too. Well, thanks to all of us, but she's like, don't shout me out. But because she's like that. She's like, she really wants it to be youth led, and she really wants us to be listened to and heard. So sure, I'm going to shout her out again. And shout out to everybody that was there, everybody that spoke. I think it went really well.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me to just be able to witness it, right, I was just in awe. And I know Susie's work. She's an amazing work, and she likes to be behind the scenes. She's very humble, and she says, y'all get the flowers, I'll do the grunt work. And that's, you know, one thing I've always loved about her. But she definitely deserves her flowers, too.
Yeah, right. She's the one that gets everything approved and all that, you know, so.
Yeah, shout out to Susie for sure. And, you know, some of the other folks that were there too. You know, Micaela's been on this podcast as well, so it was nice to have her. Seeing Baba Greg and Master Jerry do their thing. So, you know how we normally have conversations about like system and transforming the systems. And a lot of the times it's very like advocacy based, very political based, but sometimes culture is missing, right? You don't hear the drum, you don't hear the music, you don't hear the song and dance, you don't hear the blessings and the prayers. And I felt like this event had a little blending of both. Right. Yeah. You got to hear about the policies, but you also heard the drum. You got to hear about people's advocacy and about their stories, but you also got to hear Baba Greg's prayer. So for you, how was it experiencing like the different elements of all of that?
It was really good. I think they definitely set the tone. Doing the music and the prayers, it definitely set the tone. It got everybody like, you know, they were tense, and just eased up the room a little bit, and it just set a different like theme. Like I felt really well. It's like good spirits were in the air. And I think if we have more events like that have all of those just together, I think we can change a lot. Because I used to be, when I was younger, like all that prayer stuff, all the singing, I'm like, that's silly to me.
Yeah.
But as I do it more, like the meditation or just, you know, stuff like that, it just makes you feel good, and you just feel like yourself. So to do that before and then after events and just integrating it in, I think it went really well. Definitely set the tone.
I definitely feel like when you go to those events where there's that good balance, specifically the drumming, I feel like sets a tone. You know, it's like the heartbeat. So like even in San Jose, like anything that's happening, I feel like when you go to like all the marches at City Hall where you hear the Aztec dancers, you smell the sage, you hear the drums, it's almost like it's the heartbeat of the community. And for me, like it's healing almost, because it's like a heartbeat and a sound that I like recognize. That's maybe not mine to even recognize. Maybe it's my ancestors that I'm listening to, that I'm connecting to. And for me, that's super healing. And I know you're friends with Edgar, so I know you probably hear him say that. We use that word a lot here to the point where it could probably become a little annoying. But, we're really focused on healing and what it means to our youth. I feel like that question, what does healing mean to you, is such a hard question to answer. But I'm going to ask you it, so just be ready to answer it. What does healing mean to you in any sense? There's no right or wrong answer to that.
Yeah. I was watching some of your podcasts and you were asking people that. I'm like, damn, what does healing mean to me? Yeah, I guess just being patient with yourself. It's not, things don't just heal. They do heal over time, but it takes a lot of work on the back end. Like, it's not just time is not going to do it by itself. You have to really put the work in, but you have to be patient because you're going to fail. You're going to feel like you're not where you want to be at, like things aren't getting better. And so I say just be patient. That's what healing means to me, is just being patient, loving yourself, loving others, because you can't love anybody else if you don't love yourself. And you can't help nobody else if you don't help yourself. That's another lesson that my moms and my grandma taught me too. And I don't even think they knew how powerful that was, but it's stuck with me, and it's something that I put out there all the time. And so, yeah, just loving yourself and learning to love yourself, it's really hard. It takes a lot of time, a lot of just self-reflection, and digging into the parts that you don't want to dig into, the parts that you've been suppressing. You got to get in those and open them up, let them out. So, yeah, I guess that's what healing means to me, is just, finding love and building connections with yourself and other people.
You said you can't love others without loving yourself. And I feel like when we do community work like this, where we're constantly pouring ourselves into other, like pouring our cup into other people's cup, we tend to forget about taking care of ourselves and doing what we need to do to heal. So I'm going to ask you, what's something you do to make sure to take care of yourself so you're able to go and help out the community the way you do?
A lot of self-reflection all the time. I learned this back in the hall because at the time I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you're forced to, when you're in that cell, you're forced to sit down and get to know yourself. People, I think you have to do it voluntarily, but I was forced to do it. Like, I had no other choice. It's quiet in that room, and I would try to do things like work out or read or listen to music just to not be with my own mind. But eventually that runs out, and your mind starts being louder than the music. Your mind starts, you lose count when you're doing your burpees because your mind is racing. So I guess just a lot of self-reflection is what I do. I'll sit down. To be honest, I've been losing myself a little lately. Like, I've been off track, sitting down and really getting to know myself and trying to figure it out and trying to heal. But I say just sitting down, observing yourself and being aware of the things that trigger you or the things that make you happy, the thoughts that you have. Like, you're going to have negative thoughts, you're going to have positive thoughts, but don't dwell in the negative. You don't have it, it's not like you don't want to have it. You just got to have it, let it go. You can think about why you might have that. But yeah, I guess just sitting down, I guess you could call it meditating, but you don't have to really like close your eyes and, it's a lot. Take time to be with yourself. Take time to take care of yourself. It's all, you got to do it. It's like, you can't keep running away from your own mind. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, what you just shared in the last couple minutes, it's something that takes people a lifetime to understand, right? You can't continue to run from yourself. And you're talking about that experience in the hall, man. There's a time where it gets so quiet that you've never experienced that before. And you're just laying there in your own thoughts and you can't run away from yourself. And it's just like, you play whatever it is that you need to play to get by.
Right.
And sometimes it's I know for me, what I replayed in my mind were my mistakes, to the point that it was hard for me to love myself. It was hard for me to be with myself. So I then had to go and find chaos, right? So it's like, how do you find a sense of order when you were raised in chaos? How do you find a quiet room where there is no quiet space in your house, right? It's hard. I think one of the biggest questions is, what would you say to someone that's feeling alone? That, yeah, it's in the middle of chaos and there's noise around, but even in all that, they feel alone. What advice would you have for them?
It's a little simple, but it's also hard to grasp. It's just like, you're not alone. You have yourself. And, that's really, at the end of the day, that's who's going to get you through everything. It's you. You're not alone. Like, you've been with yourself the whole time. So I think just really loving yourself. I don't know how to that's a question that I'm still like, damn, I don't even, how do I share that with somebody else? I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate that well enough so somebody can understand too. Sometimes I'm like, how did I do it? But yeah, just, you're never alone. And there's always somebody out there praying for you. Some people are praying for you that don't even know you. You know, there's people out there that just love everybody. They're praying for everybody. God is up there. He's watching you. That's something I've been getting into recently too, is religion. It's just, you know, you're not alone. God put you on this planet for something. So you have yourself, you got God. Somebody out there loves you. You just got to let them love you.
Let them love you. You know, that's the hardest part, right? I have a mentor named Phyllis Hubbard that she said, you're in relationship with yourself. Sometimes you're healthy for you, and sometimes you're toxic for yourself. Mm-hmm. But unconditional love to yourself happens when you learn to love all of you, even the things that you wish were different.
Right.
So I don't know what that looks like in practice.
Yeah.
Because
it's different
I
for
haven't
everybody.
gotten there.
Yeah. Now, yeah, well, so one thing I do know for sure, though, is that it's voluntary. Like I said earlier, I was forced to do it, but when I made the choice to start trying to figure out and like understand myself, it was voluntary. Like I was forced to sit down and hear my own thoughts, but that switch happened because I'm like, okay, sitting here, letting all my thoughts get to me and ruining my you know, like how I think, it's not doing me any good. So I got to try something different. And that's what I did. It's a voluntary switch. It's a conscious thing that you think about. And for some people, it's a moment that'll help them make that switch, or a bunch of things that happen over time. But at the end of the day, you have to voluntarily step into the abyss and find your own light within the darkness.
100%.
Or create it.
Or create
the
it.
light.
So thinking about that, right? What is something that you see for yourself in the future that you're excited for? Because I know sometimes we get stuck in the present. I got to do work right now. I got to work on myself right now. I got to love myself. And sometimes we get stuck in the past. Oh, I did this. I could have done that. But what is something that makes you happy that you're looking forward to see in the future?
Sometimes like the work that I see myself doing, I'm like, dang, it really came a long way. So I'm excited to see who I become, you know, in the future. Just like the things that I just want to help people. And so I'm just excited to see how I turn out and then how many people I can reach. That's something I'm really looking forward to, is just seeing who I can become. Because when I was 16 or I was 12, 14, you know, I'm like, man, I would have never thought I was where I was at a couple years ago. And it was not a good place. But now I'm thinking like I went through that and I'm able to be where I'm at now, which is in a really good spot. And I have a lot of people around me that care for me. So I'm excited to keep seeing that circle of love grow.
You know, we're excited for you. You could see the raw passion that you have for this work and just really making a change. So I'm excited to see what you do in the future. The world's definitely going to know the name Mikey Cornejo. So I'm excited for you. You said you've listened to the podcast a couple times. I don't know how far you got in those podcasts, but there's a question I ask every single podcast. It's my favorite question I ask. No pressure. There's no right or wrong answer. The question goes, if you had a microphone, in this microphone, everyone can hear what you're about to say, what's one issue that you would like to lift up?
Man, that's a good question.
It could be anything happening in your community, anything happening in the world, in the country. It could even be something that's just happening with yourself, like raising. I know for a couple of times you've had people bring up the importance of men's mental health, you know, prioritizing like men taking care of themselves and stuff.
Actually, yeah, now that you mention it, I wouldn't say men's mental health. I think it's everybody's mental health. I think the issue nowadays that I see is back then there was nobody cared about mental health. It was like either if you're a drug addict, it's because of your own moral failing. You know, like they were insensitive to people's emotions. But then nowadays I see a whole complete switch where it's like they're too sensitive to people's emotions, and everybody's like, oh, you cried one day or you had a bad day at school, give him a Xanax, or, you know, this kid can't sit still, like, give him Adderall. And there's like everything is just going to the extreme to drugs, when I don't think it should be like that. I think there's a balance between before you give them drugs, like you can work with yourself before you ever have to go to the extreme. And so I think that the balance just went like from one side to the next, and I don't think it's a good thing at all. And so I think if we can find the balance between caring about somebody's emotions, but also like teaching them to work with themselves before they go to the extremes.
I think finding that balance is important, right? Because you talked about that. You're not saying anti-medication. You're saying let's find some alternatives before we get there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the biggest issues where we see that Black and brown folks and indigenous folks, they get overly medicated way more than other populations.
Right.
Right. So it's like, why is that the pill is the first solution for certain groups of people, and other groups of people, like, let's find some coping strategies and look for some alternatives before we get there.
Right.
Why is the roadmap different, but the symptoms are the same, and the only thing that changes is the person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I feel you on that 100%. I think that some of the other things that you brought up even throughout the conversations are important. So one of the questions that I have for you before we close up is, looking forward, looking to that next generation, there's a lot of people growing up seeing us. There's a lot of people that you're probably connected to that a couple years ago were like, what's Mikey doing? That are now looking at you like, damn, I want to be the next Mikey. I want to be able to articulate my words the way that he does it. I want to be able to go on a stage and talk about my life experiences, but also talk about the blessings. Right? So I know a lot of people are admiring you and looking up at you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. But my question is, what advice do you have for the next generation?
Love yourself and be yourself, honestly. Like, I enjoy hearing about people, or hearing when people tell me like, oh, I learned this from you, or I got this from you, or thank you for this. And it's like, yeah, I really appreciate that, but I don't want people to imitate me or to mimic me and become me, because then they lose themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, take what you can from me, but, you know, be your own person. And don't let anybody ever get you out of character. Like, just stay true to yourself. Love yourself, stay true to yourself, and I think you'll thrive. I think you'll be all right.
That's a beautiful way to end the podcast. Love yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, I just really want to thank both of you for being here today. Thank you, Mikey, for being our first podcast of the year. Always grateful for that first line. You know, I couldn't think of a better person to have done this one with. I'm going to offer to both of you guys have any closing remarks. You know, I'll start with you, Mikey, and then I'll go ahead and pass the palabra to Ariel.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really an honor being on here. A good chance to be listened to and share my, you know, I guess whatever I have to offer. Yeah, stay true to yourself, love yourself, and keep doing the work that you want to do. As long as it's not damaging yourself or damaging others, I think you'd be all right.
I mean, for me, it's an honor to share space with you again, and I know we're going to share a lot of space in the near future, so I can't wait to see what impact you live in the community. I think my closing remarks is, I wish I would have had these teachings when I was younger. Take what you need, but don't let that change who you are, was important for me. I think healing takes a lot of hard work and patience that you mentioned was important to me. And the concept of being able to love yourself and that you're never alone because you got you. So I just want to say thank you for that wisdom. I know I'm leaving this podcast with a lot more to think about. And yeah, I'm just grateful. First one of the year. I'm excited to see what else comes our way.
Thank you. I just want to give, again, another big thank you to you both for joining us today. Thank you to all the listeners for tuning in and being with us on the youth portion of the Healing Generations podcast. You can find us on Facebook at National Compadres Network and on Instagram at La Cultura Cura. Again, always a pleasure to be able to share space with you guys, and have a good day.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.